All right, guys, welcome back to Crawford Farms Entertainment. Today, we're going to look into the mindset, into the psychology of our favorite anime villains. Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the notification icon so that you won't miss any of our anime content. So let's get right into it. So for the uninitiated, Frieza is one of the main antagonists in the Dragon Ball franchise. And he is a fascinating character to analyze from a psychological perspective. His actions and personality traits can be linked to a bunch of different personality disorders and psychological theories. So let's dive into his behavior and possible underlying psychological conditions and see if we see any parallels. So over the next couple of minutes, we're going to look at the possibility of these different personality traits and disorders. First, we have a narcissistic personality disorder, and we'll move on and look at a antisocial personality disorder, and then a sadistic personality disorder. All right, let's dive into them. First, let's look at this narcissistic personality disorder. First, we have this core concept of grandiosity. Frieza exhibits an inflated sense of self-importance, believing himself to be superior to all other beings. And that's a core trait. Then there's this constant need for admiration. He demands constant admiration and recognition for his power and his status. Then there's a lack of empathy. When you think about Frieza, do you ever think of him as being empathetic? Frieza shows a blatant disregard for the feelings and rights of others, viewing them as tools to be used at his whim. I mean, the dude is just not kind. Now, this next one is probably pretty obvious, an antisocial personality disorder. And this is marked by a disregard for social norms. Frieza has a willingness to commit mass murder and genocide and destruction without remorse. And that indicates that he has no regard for social norms or the rights of others. Deceitfulness. He often uses manipulation and deceit to achieve his goals, such as when he deceived the Saiyans into thinking they were his allies before he destroyed their planet. Then impulsivity and aggressiveness. His quickness to anger and resort to violence are indicative of impulsivity and aggressiveness, common traits of APD. Now let's look at a sadistic personality disorder. This involves the enjoyment of others' suffering. Frieza derives pleasure from inflicting pain and suffering on others, a hallmark of sadistic personality disorder. Cruelty and degrading behavior. He often humiliates and tortures his victims before killing them, showcasing his sadistic tendency. Let's look at some relevant theories. First, let's look at this psychodynamic theory. According to Freud's psychodynamic theory, Frieza's behavior could be seen as a result of unresolved inner conflicts in an overdeveloped id, the part of the psyche that seeks immediate gratification. His lack of moral compass, superego, and inability to control his impulse, ego, lead to his destructive behavior. Now let's look at Bandura's social learning theory. This suggests that Frieza's behavior is learned through observing and possibly imitating others. If we consider Frieza's background, he might have been exposed to a culture of violence and power struggles, reinforcing his aggressive behavior through observation and intimidation. Cognitive behavior theory would look at Frieza's thought patterns and beliefs. He has a rigid belief in his superiority and entitlement to control the universe. His distorted thinking justifies his actions, and his behavior is reinforced through the power he gained. Now let's look at some real life parallels. First, we have dictators and tyrants. Frieza can be compared to real life dictators and tyrants who exhibit similar traits. Look at Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin. They showcase these narcissistic, antisocial, and sadistic tendencies. They ruled through fear, committed atrocities, and had grandiose senses of their destiny and superiority. Then we have our corporate psychopaths. Now this is a new term for me. I'm just starting to study this. But in the corporate world, some leaders display traits of corporate psychopathy, using manipulation, deceit, and ruthlessness to climb the ladder of success. Their lack of empathy and willingness to harm others for personal gain mirrors Frieza's behavior. And then obviously we have serial killers. Serial killers often exhibit antisocial, sadistic personality traits. They derive pleasure from other people's suffering, and they lack remorse for their actions, just like Frieza. They have enjoyment when it comes to people's pain. So in conclusion, Frieza's character is a rich tapestry of psychological disorders and traits that make him a compelling villain. By analyzing his behavior through the lens of various psychological theories and comparing him to real life figures, we get a deeper understanding of what makes him such a jerk. His narcissism and lack of empathy and sadistic pleasure in causing suffering just makes him an absolute butthead. All right, now let's look at Boros from One Punch Man. Similar to Frieza, he has some narcissistic traits. He has this inflated sense of himself. He always needs admiration, and he believes that he's superior, a lot like Frieza. The difference here is this existential depression. He has this deep search for meaning in worthy opponents that has left him with this existential void, a lot like the protagonist Saitama or One Punch Man. Now let's look at some relevant theories. Existential psychology. Boros' quest for purpose and his existential boredom highlight his struggle with finding meaning in his powerful existence. Humanistic theory. His need for self-actualization drives his search for a worthy challenge, attempting to reach his full potential, a lot like One Punch Man. So how did he get like this? So Boros' immense strength led to this existential boredom, constantly looking for somebody who would challenge him, looking for meaning in his combat, but it was hard for him to find because no one could really push him to his limits, a lot like One Punch Man. Now, as far as real life examples, we have Alexander the Great. He felt this existential boredom. Once he had conquered all of the known world, what else was he gonna do? Then Nietzsche, his philosophy was all about existentialism and searching for meaning. Now, King Solomon in the Bible also explored this idea of once you reach the top, what else is there? Moving on to Muzan from Demon Slayer. Now, this guy is probably my least favorite villain. I can't stand the guy. My daughter thinks he's cool. Like our other villains, Muzan has narcissistic personality traits, but he's also got some paranoia as well. And I guess we could say the same of Frieza, because he did have that fear of the Saiyans becoming too powerful. Now let's look at some relevant theories. Freudian psychoanalysis. Muzan's fear of mortality and his drive for immortality can be linked to the id's desire for survival and pleasure. Then attachment theory. His inability to form healthy attachments and his paranoia may stem from early life experiences and trauma. I still don't feel bad for him. Looking into his development, Muzan's transformation into a demon and subsequent fear of mortality drove his grandiosity and his paranoia. His constant efforts to eliminate threats to his power reflect his deep-seated insecurities. Now let's look at some real-life examples. Vlad the Impaler, also known as Dracula, Vlad Dracul, known for his cruelty and paranoia, he sought to eliminate threats to his rule through extreme measures. Howard Hughes would exhibit severe paranoia and narcissistic traits, leading to him being reclusive and having a controlling lifestyle. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed diving into the minds of some of these villains. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the notification icon so that you won't miss any of our anime content. Until next time, see you soon, friends.